Kale tightened his grip on the strap of his pack as the wind whipped across the rocky plateau. He had been surveying this planet for nearly a week now, and every day brought something new. The air was thick with tension, a mixture of humidity and the faint metallic smell that came before a storm. Kyle had learned quickly that the weather here was not just unpredictable, it was dangerous. The first signs came as a distant rumble, low and threatening, rolling across the jagged mountains. Kale glanced at the sky. Dark clouds swirled together unnaturally, forming patterns that looked almost alive. He knew from experience that he had only minutes to find shelter. Ahead, the cliff face opened into a narrow crevice. He ran toward it, the wind almost lifting him off his feet. Rocks slid beneath his boots, but Kyle's reflexes kept him steady. The rain began in sharp, stinging sheets, each drop sizzling against his visor as he dove into the cave. Inside, the air was still, heavy, and damp. The storm's roar was muffled, echoing faintly through the stone corridors. Kyle's boots clattered on the uneven floor as he moved deeper. He adjusted his pack, feeling the comforting weight of his supplies. Rations, water, a basic med kit, and his portable scanner. All tools that had kept him alive so far. Kale's eyes swept across the cave walls. Strange markings covered the stone, etched with care but old enough that time had worn them down in parts. Some lines seemed to glow faintly, reacting to the light of his headlamp. Kyle knelt, brushing his fingers over one of the carvings. It pulsed under his touch, as though it remembered something from long ago. A sudden movement caught his attention. He froze, straining to listen. At first it seemed like just the wind sneaking through narrow cracks, but then he heard it, a whisper, soft and deliberate. "My first fresh meal." Kyle's heart leapt into his throat. He spun around, scanning the darkness. There was no one. Only shadows danced across the walls, cast by the faint light of his headlamp. He took a slow, careful step forward. "Hello?" His voice sounded small in the cavernous space. The whisper came again, closer this time, clear and chilling. "My first fresh meal." Kyle's mind raced. He had read about intelligent alien species that were capable of communication, but he had never actually met one. And certainly, he had never heard them speak in a way that sounded hungry. He reached for the small stun baton at his side, his fingers trembling slightly. "I don't want to hurt you," he called out. "I'm just sheltering from the storm." Silence followed, thick and heavy. Then faint footsteps echoed from deeper in the cave. Kyle could hear the soft scraping of something moving across stone, deliberate but cautious. He tightened his grip on the baton and edged back slightly, looking for a path that might lead him out or to a defensible position. The cave widened suddenly into a large chamber. Stalactites hung from above like teeth, and shallow pools of water reflected the dim light of his headlamp. In the center of the room, he finally saw it. A figure crouched in the shadows. It was humanoid, pale, with limbs that seemed just slightly longer than normal human proportions. Its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, reflecting curiosity, hunger, and something else. Something Kale couldn't place. The being's voice came again, soft but clearer. "My first fresh meal." Kale's mind raced. It was intelligent, he could tell, but it had never eaten organic food, at least not like humans ate. Maybe it didn't even know what humans were. The creature's body language was tense, cautious, almost like it was trying to decide whether Kale was friend or food. Kale forced himself to remain calm. Panic wouldn't help him now. He reached slowly into his pack and pulled out a sealed ration bar. He held it out, letting the wrapper glint in the dim light. "Here," he said gently. "I won't hurt you. You can try this if you want." The alien tilted its head. Its glowing eyes studied him carefully. After a tense pause, it crept forward, hesitant, sniffing the air around the ration. Kale's heart pounded as he took a small step backward, keeping his hands visible. Finally, the alien reached out a long, delicate finger and touched the ration. It recoiled slightly, then pressed the bar to its lips. The sound it made, soft, almost musical, was a mixture of surprise and delight. Kale exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. "This is food?" the alien whispered in broken tones, using Kale's own language. "Fresh?" Kale nodded. "Yes, fresh. You can eat. It's safe." The alien's eyes softened, and for the first time it seemed less threatening. Kale realized that fear and hunger had guided its earlier actions, not malice. He relaxed slightly but remained cautious. The storm outside continued its relentless assault, thunder shaking the cave walls. Lightning flashed, illuminating the alien's features briefly. Smooth skin, elongated limbs, and curious eyes that reflected wonder and fear at the same time. Kyle decided to sit down on a flat rock nearby. "My name is Kyle," he said. "I'm from Earth. I explore new worlds. What's your name?" The alien hesitated. Then, in a voice soft and hesitant, it said, "I am Leary." Kyle smiled faintly. "Nice to meet you, Leary. We'll need to stay here until the storm passes. Then we can talk more." The alien nodded, still cautious, but it seemed to understand. Kyle offered another ration, breaking it into pieces and handing it to Leary. The creature ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it had never tasted anything before. Hours passed, and the storm outside raged on. Kyle and Leary remained in the cave, slowly building a fragile trust. Kyle realized that this encounter was unique, first contact with a species that had never interacted with humans, and in that trust, there was potential for something extraordinary. Kyle's mind wandered. If he could teach Leary and perhaps its kind about humans, about trust, about cooperation, the possibilities were endless. But first, they had to survive the storm. As the hours dragged on, Kale noticed the alien examining the cave walls again, touching the carvings that glowed faintly. "Home?" Kale asked quietly. Leary shook its head. "No, shelter, storm, first meal, survival." Kale nodded. He understood. Here, in the cave, they were equals, two beings forced by nature into proximity, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. By the time the storm began to subside, a bond had formed. It was small, fragile, but it existed. Kale knew that once they left the cave, the real challenge would begin. Communicating, understanding, and perhaps even forging an alliance across worlds. The cave, dark and forbidding when he first entered, now felt like a place of possibility. Outside, the storm had turned into a gentle drizzle, leaving the rocky plateau glistening in the fading light. Kale looked at Leary, whose glowing eyes now reflected something almost human. Curiosity, hope, and the faintest trace of trust. Kyle spoke quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "We survived together, and maybe, just maybe, we can teach each other something new." Leary tilted its head, making a sound that Kale interpreted as agreement. The first step had been taken. The first spark of connection had been lit. And for Kale, that was enough for one night. The storm had finally passed. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle, leaving the rocky plateau shining under a pale alien sun. Kyle stepped cautiously out of the cave, his eyes scanning the horizon. The landscape was rough and jagged, but beautiful in its own harsh way. Everywhere, sharp peaks and strange, twisted plants marked the alien world as untamed and wild. Leary followed him silently, moving with careful curiosity. Kale could see that the alien's glowing eyes were full of questions, watching every movement he made. He felt a mixture of excitement and caution. Communication would be slow, understanding would take patience, but the potential was extraordinary. Kale set down his pack and took out a small handheld scanner. "I need to see the surrounding area," he said, more to himself than to Leary. "It's important to know if there's danger or resources." The alien crouched low to the ground, tilting its head. It mimicked Kale's movements, trying to understand what he was doing. Kale smiled faintly. Humans had a gift for teaching through action, he thought, and he would need that now. He pointed to the scanner's display, showing a simple map of the nearby terrain. Then he pointed to a rock nearby and motioned for Leary to place its hand on it. Slowly, carefully, the alien copied him. Kyle was amazed at how quickly it learned, how fast it adapted to something completely new. Hours passed as Kale tried different ways to communicate. He used gestures, drawings in the dirt, and even a few simple words. Leary responded with gestures of its own, pointing, mimicking, and sometimes repeating the few words Kale spoke. Finally, a breakthrough came. Kale held up a ration bar, then pointed to himself and said, "Kale." Then he pointed to Leary and said, "Friend?" Leary paused, then repeated the word slowly, "Friend." Kale's heart raced. This was more than communication. This was understanding. He nodded, giving a thumbs up. Leary's eyes glowed brighter, and it mimicked the gesture, raising one of its elongated fingers in the closest thing to a thumbs up it could manage. Kale smiled. He had always believed that humanity's greatest strength was not weapons or technology. It was the ability to connect, to teach, to understand. And now, that strength was being tested on an alien world. As the sun rose higher, Kale realized that he needed to find food and water for both of them. He set off toward a cluster of plants that seemed edible. Leary followed, watching his every move. Kyle carefully tested the plants, using his knowledge of biology to determine what was safe. He handed small pieces to Leary, who tasted each one with careful curiosity. Some were rejected, some were accepted, but slowly, a shared routine formed. By the time they returned to the cave, Kale felt a strange sense of accomplishment. They had survived the storm, learned to trust each other, and begun the first steps of communication. But there was still much to understand. That night, as the stars appeared in the alien sky, Kale sat on a flat rock near the cave entrance. He unwrapped another ration bar and broke it into pieces. Leary sat across from him, its eyes glowing softly in the darkness. Kyle held out a piece of food. "Eat," he said. "Safe. Good." Leary took it cautiously, then looked at him with something like gratitude. Kyle smiled. "You're learning fast." The alien made a sound, half laugh, half chirp. Kyle chuckled. "We'll get there," he said, step by step. Over the next few days, Kyle and Leary explored the area near the cave. They moved slowly, carefully, learning from each other. Kyle taught Leary how to use simple tools, how to break rocks to create cutting edges, how to carry water from the small streams nearby, and how to build a small shelter. In return, Leary showed Kale places that were rich with strange fruits, edible plants, and hidden water sources. Kale realized that the alien world was full of resources, if humans could learn to understand it. One morning, Kyle noticed something unusual. The tracks around the cave had changed overnight. Smaller footprints, unfamiliar and cautious, led away from the cave entrance into the hills. Leary noticed them too, and its glowing eyes narrowed. Kyle approached carefully. "More?" he asked. Leary nodded, then made a gesture that Kale interpreted as warning. "Stay back." The two of them moved slowly, following the tracks to a narrow valley hidden between sharp cliffs. There, Kyle saw them, more of Leary's kind. They were similar in appearance but smaller, less developed, and clearly afraid. Leary moved forward, calling softly in its broken language. Kale stayed back, observing. He saw how quickly Leary's presence calmed the others. It was fascinating, the way the alien communicated without words, using tone, gesture, and presence. Slowly, Kale realized that humans might have an advantage in situations like this, not because of strength, but because of intelligence and empathy. Over the next few hours, Kale watched and learned. Leary guided the smaller aliens, showing them the food Kale had brought and helping them understand that he was not a threat. Kale was careful to respect their space, only offering food when Leary gestured approval. By evening, a tentative peace had formed. The smaller aliens were curious but cautious, and Kyle had earned a small place among them, not as a master, but as a friend. He reflected on the situation, how humans could build trust, create alliances, and survive through understanding rather than force. That night, Kale returned to the cave with Leary. They shared a quiet meal, and Kale taught Leary a few more words in English, while Leary taught him some of its own. Communication was still limited, but each word, each gesture, was a bridge between worlds. The next day, Kale and Leary decided to explore further. They moved toward a ridge that overlooked the valley. Kale scanned the area with his handheld device. The readings were astonishing. Water sources, edible plants, even minerals that could be valuable to human colonies. But there was something else. A faint energy signal pulsed from deep within the valley, hidden behind a thick grove of alien trees. Kale's curiosity flared. "Leary, what is that?" he asked. Leary tilted its head and made a sound that Kale interpreted as caution. It pointed toward the grove and whispered in its soft voice, "Danger, unknown." Kale nodded. He understood the warning but was not deterred. Humanity had always faced the unknown, and exploration was in their nature. He gestured to Leary. "We go together. Careful." They moved slowly, each step measured. The grove was dense, filled with towering plants that blocked the sunlight. Strange, colorful insects buzzed around, and the air was thick with unfamiliar scents. Kyle kept his scanner ready, noting energy fluctuations. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the shadows. Leary froze, its body tense. Kyle held up a hand. The rustling grew louder, then stopped. Out of the shadows emerged a creature unlike Leary, larger, with sharp features and glowing eyes. It growled softly, testing the intruders. Kyle's heart pounded. He kept his hands visible and spoke in calm tones. "We mean no harm. We are friends." The creature hesitated, then sniffed the air. Leary stepped forward, calling softly in its language. The creature's posture relaxed slightly, though it remained alert. Kale realized something incredible. Leary's presence was enough to prevent a fight. Trust could be extended across species if approached carefully. Kale slowly reached into his pack, offering a piece of ration to the new creature. It sniffed, then took it cautiously, stepping back. Leary stayed close, guiding and reassuring it. Kale marveled at the scene. Two alien species and a human, forming a fragile, peaceful alliance. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the grove. Kale and Leary returned to the cave, the new creature following at a distance. Kale realized that this planet was full of surprises. Life here was intelligent, adaptable, and capable of connection, but it required patience, respect, and understanding. That night, Kale sat with Leary and the smaller alien creatures near the cave entrance. He looked at the stars in the alien sky and felt a sense of hope. Humanity's potential was not just in technology or strength, it was in the ability to connect, to communicate, to inspire trust. Leary nudged Kale gently, as if reminding him that they were partners in this new world. Kale smiled. Together they had survived the storm, faced the unknown, and begun a friendship that could change the course of exploration forever. Kale knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges. The valley held secrets, and not all of them would be friendly. But for now, in the quiet of the cave, he allowed himself to rest. He had discovered something far more valuable than minerals or maps. He had discovered the first true connection between humans and an intelligent alien species, and he was ready to see where it would lead. The sun rose over the jagged horizon, painting the alien sky in shades of gold and violet. Kale stretched, feeling the chill of the morning air on his skin. The storm was long gone, leaving the plateau glistening with dew. Leary was already awake, moving silently among the smaller alien creatures that had come to trust them both. Kyle packed his gear carefully, making sure to leave nothing behind that could harm the delicate ecosystem. He glanced at Leary, who tilted its head toward him as if asking, "Are we ready?" Kyle nodded. "Yes. Today we explore further. We need to understand more about this world." The two of them, along with the smaller creatures, moved toward the ridge overlooking the valley. Kale scanned the area with his handheld device. He was careful to record everything, every plant, every water source, every strange energy reading. He had learned that this planet was full of surprises, and he wanted to make sure humanity could benefit from this knowledge without disturbing the balance of life here. As they descended into the valley, Kale noticed the grove where they had first met the larger alien creature. It was quiet now, but he felt the presence of something watching. Leary moved close to him, nudging him gently as if to warn him. Kale slowed his pace, allowing Leary to lead the way. The valley was wider than Kale had imagined. Strange plants stretched high, their leaves shimmering with a subtle glow. Small streams twisted through the landscape, and birds or bird-like creatures sang unfamiliar melodies. The air was alive with energy, and Kale could feel it in his veins. This was a world that had adapted to survive, and now he was part of its story. They followed a narrow path through the grove. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Kyle froze, scanning the area. Leary tensed, its eyes glowing brighter. From the shadows, a group of creatures emerged. They were larger than Leary, but unlike the one they had met earlier, these beings moved cautiously, their eyes wary and intelligent. Kyle took a deep breath. He had faced unknown creatures before, but he reminded himself of one lesson. Fear could be contagious, but trust could be built with patience. He stepped forward slowly, hands open, showing no threat. Leary followed, calling softly in its own language. The creatures stopped, watching. For several long minutes there was no movement. Then, one of them, a female Kale assumed, approached. She sniffed the air around him, then glanced at Leary. Leary made a soft sound, comforting the newcomer. Kale offered a ration bar, placing it on the ground. The female sniffed it cautiously, then tasted it. Kale exhaled slowly, relief flooding him. The rest of the group followed, gradually accepting Kale's presence. It was a delicate dance of gestures, shared food, and patience. Kale realized that humans had a unique ability to teach trust, to inspire cooperation, and to turn potential threats into allies. After the initial tension passed, Kale and Leary explored deeper into the valley. They discovered hidden caves filled with crystalline formations, streams teeming with strange but edible fish, and groves of fruits that glowed softly in the evening light. Kale documented everything carefully, knowing that this knowledge could help humanity survive on new worlds without harming the creatures that already lived there. During their exploration, Kale noticed faint energy readings coming from a larger cave at the base of a distant cliff. Leary stopped and looked at him, warning of potential danger. Kale studied the readings carefully. They were unfamiliar, not like anything he had encountered before. He decided they needed to investigate, but cautiously. As they approached, the entrance to the cave loomed large and dark. Strange markings lined the walls, similar to those in the cave where Kyle had first met Leary. He stepped forward slowly, his hand resting on the stun baton strapped to his side. Leary stayed close, guiding the smaller creatures behind him. Inside, the cave widened into a vast chamber. Strange machines lined the walls, covered in dust but still faintly glowing with energy. Kyle's eyes widened. This was not natural. Someone or something had been here before. He approached one of the machines, scanning it carefully. The readings suggested that it was a device capable of manipulating energy, perhaps even creating life-sustaining conditions. Leary made a soft sound, drawing Kyle's attention to a corner of the chamber. There, partially hidden under a pile of rocks, was a device similar to the one Kyle carried. He realized that this world had been studied before, or maybe even prepared for human arrival. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. Kyle spent hours examining the technology, documenting it carefully. Leary assisted, pointing to parts of the machinery that seemed important. Together, they began to understand the function of the devices. They could harness energy from the planet in a safe, sustainable way, creating a potential lifeline for future human colonists. As night fell, Kyle set up a small camp inside the cave. He shared rations with Leary and the smaller creatures, who had followed them into the chamber. The glowing walls cast a gentle light, reflecting off the crystal formations, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. Kyle reflected on the journey so far. In a few short days, he had encountered life unlike anything on Earth, faced unknown dangers, and built a bond of trust with an alien species. Humanity's strength was not in dominance or aggression. It was in empathy, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. The following morning, Kyle and Leary returned to the surface. They moved carefully, aware that the valley was full of creatures that could be dangerous if provoked. But the bond they had formed with Leary and the others provided them with a sense of security. The alien community now accepted Kyle as a friend, a teacher, and an ally. Kyle's thoughts drifted to Earth. The discoveries here could change everything. New sources of energy, food, and knowledge. But he also knew that humanity had a responsibility. They could not exploit this world recklessly. They had to learn from it, respect it, and find a way to coexist. As they reached the ridge overlooking the valley, Kyle paused. The view was breathtaking. The streams sparkled like silver ribbons, the plants swayed gently in the breeze, and the creatures moved freely, unaware of the human observer. He felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity was capable of greatness, not just in science and technology, but in understanding, cooperation, and connection. Leary moved beside him, its glowing eyes reflecting the light of the rising sun. Kyle smiled. "We've done well, Leary. Together, we've made a start." The alien tilted its head, making a soft sound. Kyle interpreted it as agreement. They were partners now, united by trust and shared experience. Over the next several days, Kyle continued to explore the valley with Leary. He discovered hidden waterfalls, fields of edible plants, and areas rich in minerals. Each discovery was carefully recorded, ensuring that the knowledge could be shared responsibly. Kyle also began to teach Leary more about humans, how they built, how they thought, and how they survived. Leary was a quick learner, absorbing information and applying it in ways Kyle had not anticipated. The alien's natural curiosity and intelligence complemented human ingenuity perfectly. One evening, as the sky turned shades of orange and purple, Kyle and Leary sat on a high cliff overlooking the valley. The smaller creatures gathered around them, curious but calm. Kyle spoke softly, reflecting on the journey. "We've seen much, learned much, and survived together. This is only the beginning. Humanity can bring hope to new worlds. But we must do it wisely, with care, and with respect." Leary made a soft musical sound in response, leaning against Kyle's side. The trust between them was complete. The alien creatures had accepted him, and he had gained allies in a world far from Earth. Kyle felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. As night fell, the stars appeared in the alien sky. They were brighter than any Kyle had seen on Earth, scattered across the heavens like jewels. He knew that this planet held many secrets, and that the journey of discovery was far from over. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of peace. Kyle realized that humanity's potential was not measured by technology alone, but by the ability to connect, to understand, and to inspire. He had faced the unknown and had succeeded, not through force, but through empathy, intelligence, and courage. The alien world, once strange and frightening, now felt like a place of possibility. With Leary and the others by his side, Kyle knew that humans could learn, adapt, and thrive, even in the most alien environments. The first storm had brought fear.
He hid in a cave to escape a storm. Then a voice in the dark murmured, "My first fresh meal, Sci-Fi."